Hi, I'm here at the Audio Show Deluxe with Kevin from Definitive Audio. Hi there.
Hi there, Alan.
And what are we showing today?
Okay, so let's start at the back. So the system is this is the unveiling of the new Living Voice R80 loudspeaker, which has been in the birth canal for 4 years. This is its first public showing. So that's a very high sensitivity two-way in this classic Dapolito configuration with a rear vent.
And external crossover.
External crossover. Well, we do internal and external, and we do satin finish and gloss finish. So there's a range there to suit people's. Some people don't like the extra boxes. Some people don't like the extra cable. Some people want to spend slightly less money. So there's choices there for people.
Okay.
So that's new, and we're driving that with the SJS Model 5 here. Which is an 8-watt single-ended 300B with a fabulously designed, well, a multitude of fabulous design features. The power supply is very splendid and very stiff and very assured. It doesn't seem to get troubled by the loudspeaker. This loudspeaker is an extremely benign load, so to fill this 70 square meter room with 8 watts is a joy. That is being driven by, again, this SJS Model 7 Premier preamp. So this is, all of the SJS preamps look the same, from the base model right up to this top of the range thing. All of the differences are in the quality of components, and there are some topology changes. You go from resistor-loaded anodes to choke-loaded anodes, and there's a hierarchy of choke qualities. This one is made in a full copper chassis, albeit with an aluminium fascia. So that's a pretty special thing. No cathode followers. Choke input, filter power supplies. It's a very splendid thing that's been evolved over a number of years, and we've worked quite closely with SGS in its evolution and its voicing to work with the Living Voice loudspeakers. The Phono amp, SGS do a hierarchy. That's the base model. We're not using that. We're using the top of the range here, the Model 3 silver enhanced. Again, the same philosophy, the same basic DNA in terms of design values. On the front, we've got the Grand Prix Audio Monaco V2. There is a V3 model. You can still buy the V2. The V3 is dearer. It doesn't strictly replace the V2. So that's a very sophisticated direct drive turntable made in, this carbon fibre has been devalued a little bit by being used as decorative trims. This is structural carbon fibre build like you would have on a race car, because Alvin Gold, there's a faux pas.
There's a name from the past.
Alvin Lloyd, it has a background in structural engineering in race cars. So there's a lot of those ideas that have informed this design. So it's a low torque direct drive design. So it's got this vanishingly quiet background, absolutely no hash and no grain, perfectly planted pitch. So on non-vibrato string tone, there's no ambiguity. On piano chord decays, there's no ambiguity. It's got the pitch stability of a CD player, but the dynamic range and the tonal naturalness of a good record player if the arm and the cartridge are chosen appropriately. So on this, we've got this is the Kuzma Sapphire tone arm, which is a relatively new design that you've had some experience with. So that's a synthetically grown sapphire arm tube, which is a pretty radical state of affairs. On paper, you'd look at it and say, crikey, this has got such a high effective mass. It's wrong. It can't be right. And that did alarm me at first, but the listening gives the lie to it. And if you quiz Frank about it, he manifestly didn't have a problem with the airline arm, which has got an enormous effective mass horizontally, greater than this. But he thinks that a lot of that, we've inherited a lot of the values of, a lot of those prejudices about effective mass relative to cartridge compliance from an era where bearings were noisy and tone arm bearings weren't particularly splendid. So Anyway, the proof of the pudding is in the eating, and this is a manifestly fabulous thing that completely disappears. I like it with this Car 50 cartridge, which has got sapphire cantilever. I didn't choose it because there's a beautiful symmetry of a sapphire cantilever and a sapphire tone arm, but it seems to have something about it that's rather... It's got a lovely forward purpose and energy without making a show of it. It's got a lovely vitality and clarity without any feeling there's any emphasis, flattering to deceive. It just gets out the way and plays. That's going into a consolidated audio from Berlin. This is a nanocrystalline core step-up transformer, 1:32 turns ratio, perfectly suits the internal impedance and output voltage of these cartridges. I like the silver transformer with the Car 50, and I like the copper transformer with the Car 60. So that's the front end here. This is the Kuzma M, which is the second from the top of his hierarchy in this lovely, slightly old-fashioned traditional appearance. Massive, decoupled from the Cosmos via some, I wouldn't call them elastomer suspensions, but it's decoupled. So there's an energy discontinuity between this massive frame and this massive top plate. The DNA is similar to the R, but this is much more serious. We've got the 4.14 tone arm, which has got bandwidth to die for and an assured, calm, organised quality. The Car 60 with the diamond cantilever, so that's a posh fella. And as I say, into the 1:32 consolidated audio nano core transformer. Is there anything that I've forgotten? The Living Voice G2 equipment tables with resonance control. Let's not forget them. So these are made of fine ply, which is it's a bespoke material that we have made in Germany. You've got 2 layers here that are squeezed together with a silicon elastomer in the gap. The legs are aero aluminium, and there's a stainless steel rod down the middle that allows you to apply a precise torque to set the resonance frequency of this relative to this. And that was another product that was evolved out of necessity and over many years through iterative development. And you know, the results have led the design. The subjective listening results have led the design, which is true of everything really at Definitive Audio and at Living Voice. The result finds itself.
So, why the car battery, and tell us about the other batteries?
Right, so this is a DC motor.
Yes.
And you can plug it into the national grid using a little cheap box that takes your AC, converts it to DC, switch mode style. So you think, well, why do we need that when we can have no rectification, no smoothing, just a reservoir of pure power in a battery? So you connect the Monaco brain, which connects the power, because this has got an optical disc in it that is read, I can't remember, 47,000 times a second, which is the speed controller. And it requires a very small amount of power to drive it. So if you just connect a car battery and listen, you think, goodness me, that's lovely. Much more shapely, much more supple and elastic. The V3, Kelsurprise, the V3 has a battery power supply as part of the package. Okay, so, you know, I did force Alvin to borrow a car battery and said, stick that in your pipe and smoke it, and he smoked it and he enjoyed it. So that's what that's for. Over there, that's the Living Voice Pure Music power supply, which we've got one that we use at work for all of our development work and appointments that's wired into the building. This one is a mobile one, if barely mobile, it's so heavy. But that's a 24-volt system with 2 inverters in parallel, and you know, you can stick rubbish into it. It's stored in the charge is stored in the batteries, and then it's converted to exactly 50 hertz, 240 volts, come what may, and we're disconnected from national grid. So we're not using the national grid, and never do at hi-fi shows. And it's a real bonus. So during the setup, that was the last thing that we obviously positioned the speakers, did all sorts of tweaks and qualified what we were doing, and the last thing we did was get rid of the national grid and run just off the batteries, and it was heaven. Perfect. So that's the system.
Great. Oh yes, cables.
Cables are not to be discussed.
Okay, then they're a little cable.
I'm using stuff that's known and loved and tried and trusted. Is unobtainium.
Okay.
I have been looking for a replacement for it for a very long time. I like it. It's not made anymore. It has been replaced with something that I would rather not have. I'd rather have this. So that's what I stay with. It's not make or break deal for me. But my search for beautiful cables continues.
Right. Thank you very much.